All right, so this is part two. I want to get into the Trump presidency, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about the collapse and how it's all going to happen. It's basically going to be a reset. It's going to be a controlled collapse. So I'll get into the detail on that. It's really not what you're thinking it's going to be. I'll explain how they're going to handle it. And I'm going to spend a lot of the video talking about Trump and the Trump presidency and a lot of my conversations with David and what we talked about and where we agreed, where we disagreed. Because we had some pretty heated discussions about Trump. His viewpoint was very different from mine when we first met. By the time of his death and conversing with each other so much over the course of many, many, many months, we came to kind of conclude similar things, but I still have my own point of view. So I'm going to talk about Trump. I'm going to talk about what I know from a military source who's also shared with me some interesting highlights and things from his own knowledge, his experience. He's got access. He does. Not White House access or anything like that, but he's pretty high in the chain of command, so he hears a lot. And he shares it with me, so I'll get into some of that. In my conversation with David, when we would talk, he told me about something called Israeli Hezbollah. It is an official arm of the Israeli government that produces propaganda. They have a huge room full of trained people on computers all day posting garbage on the internet, comments, pretending to be other people, trying to mislead, post disinfo, cause discord. It's real. You can Google it. So we've speculated as the Israeli Hezbollah propaganda operation moved in our direction at this point because they're tired of what we're saying and they want the channel taken down. That's very possible too. I've been asking the question, I asked him at French David Goldberg, how's the channel still up? Well, here's the thing. It could be gone tomorrow. And there's just people out there that hate the truth. I mean, I've encountered them in my life. They'll make it a personal mission to go after truth tellers and distract and try to confuse. And that's just what they do. These people are nuts. I had a neighbor who was one of those people who was on my ass for 10 years over just stuff that I was doing in my yard. And you might know somebody like that. These people are miserable SOBs. And they aren't just online, they're in real life. So my wife says don't do it anymore. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to just get the audio out and I'm going to get it to them. And they're going to put it up and I hope it stays up. I don't give a crap. We're safe. They're not going to get to us. I've taken steps to make sure that ain't going to happen. I feel confident in that. I'm just disgusted that the friends of David Goldberg are being attacked on a personal level. And if you don't care, if nobody cares, nobody does anything, truth's never going to get out about Project Zypher, Project Pogo, TTID, how the collapse is going to roll out, the things they're doing that all these other disinfo channels aren't telling you. They're giving you some truth, but they're not telling you about this. They're not telling you to get out of the United States. They're telling you to stay. Oh, stay here. Fight the good fight. Save Sodom and Gomorrah. Why the hell would you want to save America? Why would you want to save Sodom and Gomorrah? There's nothing left to save. It is way over. It was over 20 years ago. If you're a patriot and you're a Christian, you know in your heart it's been over a long time. Now, the only reason you don't think it's over yet, Donald Trump is president, and we're going to get into that. The only reason you don't think it's over yet, he's president. Now you got a little bit of hope. Maybe we can save America. Trump's president. Maybe there's hope and we can save the country. Well, hold your horses. We're going to get into that. Because the level of deception is way beyond what you can even imagine. They got you deceived. You believe that the guns are going to protect you. And you believe if the guns don't protect you and they get to your family and they get to you, well, you know what? You go to heaven. You don't want to die, but if you do die, well, you're going to heaven. I mean, that's what some of these people really, truly believe. Christians particularly obviously believe that. They've got you right where they want you. Totally deceived. Sitting ducks, easy targets. Because you don't know the truth about what they're going to do to you. Because all these disinfo channels are feeding you a line about how the guns are going to protect you and you need to defend the Union and stay put, get bugged out, stay right where you are. That's right where they want you. Because guns aren't going to protect you. And you're not going to heaven because they're not going to let you get there. They're not going to let you get there. Now, I didn't say you're not going to heaven. You will get to heaven at some point if you don't allow all this deception to corrupt your soul. But they have a plan, and that is the underground basis, getting the patriots, Christians, free thinkers. It includes agnostics and atheists. Anybody who spoke badly about Israel is going underground. I don't care what you believe. If you said something bad about Israel, if you liked the video that was against Israel, they're coming for you. They're going to get you. And they got a list, and they know who you are. They're leaving no stone unturned. They want any goy who's got even a hint of the truth, a whiff of it. They want them down there, underground. It's real. You know in your heart, you know there's evil in this world. You know how bad it is. You know what they do to kids. You know who's in power, pedophiles. You know all that. But you still experience the cognitive dissonance that says, well, my guns are going to protect me, and I'm going to go out a blaze of glory, and I'm going to defend the Union. You still believe that crap, despite what you know in your heart is true, and that is you are living in a total cesspool of demonic evil every day in the United States of America, and it has been over for 2 decades in terms of saving this country. That passed a long time ago. So you got to ask yourself, why do they want me to stay here so bad? This channel right now is the only channel on YouTube telling you to get out. Only one. Only one. 5,000 other channels out there, Christian channels, QAnon, pro-Trump, patriotic, prepper channels. What are they all saying? Stay right here in Sodom and Gomorrah. Don't you dare go anywhere. That is mighty interesting, isn't it? Now, I'm all about saving America, but that ship sailed. This country is done. We are the very small minority that is awake and aware we are not enough. It's not enough. And we'll talk about Trump in a little bit. Don't you worry, we'll get to that. Because I know that's on your mind. Like, well, what about Donald Trump? We elected Trump. Trump's going to save us. QAnon. Nah. Oh, I can't wait to get to Trump. I can't wait. My point is this. You got to think deeper and bigger on what's really with the agenda. It's not so simple and so easy as just holding on to your guns and getting your bug out bag. Do you think they didn't have a plan for all that? I already told you that the whole gun thing, they want you to have the guns. If they wanted to ban guns, they could have done a long time ago. They don't want to ban guns. They want you to have your guns. And they want you to believe that the guns are going to protect you. That's what they want you to believe, and you believe it. I'm all for the Second Amendment, but that ship sailed too. Saving America sailed 20 years ago, and the gun issue sailed a long time ago too, because the technology advanced for them, and it did not advance for us. We're still holding on to our AR-15s and our Colt 45s and our shotguns, thinking that's going to really stand a chance to protect us and defend the Union. You are dreaming. You're in fantasy land. We don't have the technology. They do. What they got is 100 years ahead of what you got. 100 years ahead of your guns, technology. So the gun issue, you really need to think about that. I'm all for guns. Everybody should have a gun in their home for protection. But if you want to talk about saving America and defending the Union from what is about to come, it's sticks and stones compared to what they got. And they know that. You're playing right into their hands when you talk about how guns are going to protect you and your family from what's coming. You are dreaming. Now let's move on to the collapse. And I'll have them timestamp this part, because I just rambled again. We'll move on to the collapse. The collapse is a controlled collapse. They know it's coming. They know the financial system's a bubble. They know there's trillions and trillions in debt, bad debt, loaded up on the banks, the currency. They know there's going to be a collapse one way or another. They want to control it when it happens, and they want an agenda to play out when it happens that they're in control of. They're not stupid people. These are really smart people. They're smarter than you, smarter than me. They're not going to just let some economic collapse happen at some point without them taking advantage of it. So what are they going to do? They're going to plan the collapse. My timeline, what I've been told, what I've seen, is 2021 to 2025. It could be wrong. It could change. But it is going to happen. It's going to happen soon. The collapse is going to look like this. It's not going to be Mad Max. The whole power is not going to be out across the entire United States. There's still going to be power. Now, there's going to be power outages that lead up to it. They have to do with Project Zypher. I've talked about that before. But the collapse itself, I'm going to paint a picture of what it's going to look like based on what I know. You're still going to have power. Stock market is going to totally evaporate. It will be a meltdown unlike any other over the course of about a week or two. There will be panic. The television will be on. You will be watching the news. What will follow from that? Mass layoffs, high unemployment, just overall economic disruption where Americans are already financially stressed. It's going to put them on the brink. This will transpire over a few months. It will just get worse and worse and worse. It will get to the point the military is going to come out into the streets. They're going to set up roadblocks. There's going to be food banks because the currency is going to have serious problems. Your buying power is going to start to evaporate too. Now, people don't have any money anyway. People aren't even going to have any money. They're going to be jobless. There's going to be serious shortages of just having money. Meanwhile, the currency starts to destabilize too. After a couple of months, it's going to lead up to a point, and this is what they're planning on. The bread lines, the government is going to provide food for 350 million or so Americans. They're going to provide assistance, cash handouts, food stamps. You're going to see people that are living in mansions right now with net worths in the millions and millions of dollars in those bread lines, and it's by design. Because to get the food, you're going to have to take the microchip. And if you don't take the microchip, you don't eat. Now, I talked about before, they got these nano devices in people's bloodstreams and everything. They're not very effective. There's limitations to the technology. They want everybody to be microchipped. And they know if there isn't some kind of calamity, Americans aren't going to take the microchip. Right now, would Americans go take the microchip? No, they're not going to do it. This is the catalyst to make it finally happen, and it will work. So the collapse is going to proceed. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. It gets to the point where people are in the bread lines and they're getting the food from the military, the garrisons that are set up in every city in America, National Guard, U.S. military, and foreign troops. They're going to bring in a lot of foreign troops to help out with this mess. And it is going to be like a domino effect across the Western Hemisphere and all over the Northern Hemisphere. It'll affect Europe, it'll affect China, but America will be ground zero at first. And they're going to bring in the foreign troops. And you're going to see all different kinds of faces from a whole bunch of different places, including China. So that's the first 4 or 5 months. As this happens and proceeds, this is when the government goes into high gear in terms of implementing all the globalist agendas through Congress, through the presidency. You're going to see it go into high gear during the chaos. They're going to be issuing bill after bill after bill, all about Agenda 21, Agenda 30, in terms of changing the laws, getting America on track to becoming a total globalist controlled surveillance police state where freedom of speech is shut down and you don't even have the freedom to think anymore. But that's after the reset. So you're going to have a period of a couple of years of deep, deep economic chaos and depression. The government will be there with food to help because, as I said, they do have this food program where they can grow food in these huge vats with bacteria. It's not real, but it looks real, and nutritional value in there. You won't be able to farm. You won't be able to grow food yourself. They're going to ban all of that. They're already doing that. So you'll be 100% reliant on the government for a period of 3 or 4 years. And then there will be an economic recovery, a new currency. Things will recover, but it will be a new world. And all this stuff with Trump and the patriotism and nationalism and Americans still having free speech, and that's gone when this new world begins. It's over. And I'll explain more of that in the Trump part of this, why they're doing what they're doing. If you make it to that new world, you're going to have a microchip, you're going to be totally controlled and surveilled. Now, they're going to tell you that it's all roses and sunshine, by the way. They're going to tell you this is good for you. And this new world, that we survived the economic collapse, and we came out of it, and you got your microchip now, and now you got a job, and you got nice things again, and you've got power and water, and you've got a new iPhone 15, and it's going to start to look like the world we got now, but there will be some big differences. No more freedom of speech. No more freedom of speech. And the ideas of the Trump presidency, the nationalism, America first, all that will be completely destroyed and faded away. Gone. Constitution, gone. And there'll be no resistance to it because you and me, patriots, gone. I've already told you the number, 12 to 15 million. Now, there's way more than that are Republican, that voted for Trump, but they're not awake. They have a very, very shallow understanding of the truth, and they're not a threat, and they will assimilate. They've already done testing on all this. They've done profiles of these people. They've ran it through their programs that they have. I mean, they have very advanced data analysis programs where they can look at the human population of America and they can determine, okay, there's about 12 to 15 million Americans that are going to be a problem for us. And then there's going to be 100 or 150 million conservative Republican types who won't be a problem. They may resist a little bit internally, but they will take the microchip and they will assimilate. They've already determined the numbers because they have the computer algorithms to do so. 12 to 15 million of us got to go. But they're not going to just kill us. They're going to kill some of us. They're going to take us to the underground bases. Now, people have said, well, how could they house 12, 15 million in underground bases? Of course they could. Of course they could. I've already explained to you, you're not going to be in a cell. You're going to be in a cage. It's a few square feet in size, maybe even smaller than that. These bases have been being built for 50 years, 50, 60 years, And they've got hundreds of them all over the United States. They have enough room to put at least 10 million souls down there and keep them alive. And y'all think that, well, that's just too many. Give me a break. You can fit the entire human population into the state of Texas. The entire population of Earth can be fit into the state of Texas, where everybody has a little bit of land, a little place to stand. You're telling me that they can't put 10 million people into all the underground bases they've been building for the past 50 or 60 years in America? Of course they can. Now, they can't give them big, nice apartments, but they can put them in these small cages. And that's what they're going to do. I've explained how they're going to do it. They send a drone, drill a hole into your window, it flies in, it blows the puff of scopolamine, you walk out in a hypnotic state into the bus, waiting for you. This operation goes on at night. Nobody notices, nobody thinks about it, nobody cares, because the vast majority of Americans are totally brain dead and mind controlled. Now, you're gone, and they took you to the underground base, and they're going to begin their process of assimilating you into that underground base. And that means removing your limbs one by one without anesthesia, extracting the adrenochrome that's produced in that process, and hooking you up to a machine that's going to keep you alive for hundreds of years. Meanwhile, they're going to remove body parts. They're going to remove an eye, and they might remove one of your kidneys. And they're going to sell that on the black market and make an unbelievable amount of money. China, Russia, a lot of countries are going to buy, especially in the Middle East, are going to buy from them and purchase these body parts because they're in high demand. People need them. People need new kidneys. People need new. They're going to take part of your liver and be able to grow it in a lab. They're going to take as much as they can without killing you, and they're going to sell it or use it for their own experiments. All right? So as that process is going on, you're being assimilated into this new life of yours, if you can call it that. You're getting tortured mentally, physically, emotionally every single day. It is absolute hell on earth for you. They're doing all this. They've got the AI program running in the run-up to the collapse. I already explained the AI program. You can go listen to the other videos about it. That AI program, the whole point is so that nobody really comes looking for this 12 to 15 million that are gone over the course of a few months. Now, if they didn't have that AI program in there, some people would start to wake up. People would realize, wow, a lot of people just went missing out of the blue. What the hell happened? The AI program serves that purpose to push that, kick the can down the road so that your disappearance does not get investigated, basically. It doesn't become a news story. Because it looks like you're posting on Facebook, you just made a phone call to your mom, it sounds just like you, nobody's going to investigate it. You might have your suspicions that my dad's gone, where did he go? He's not at home, he's missing. But he just left a phone message for my mom. And then he just posted something on Facebook. And he says he took a trip. People will have their suspicions, but it won't be investigated. So the AI program in Project Pogo and Project Cypher serves a very specific purpose, but it will also serve a larger purpose. They're testing this for the long term. They want to make sure it works, and it does work. But it serves a very specific purpose so that when the 10 to 15 million, 12 to 15 million of patriots and Americans and Christians all disappear over the course of 6 months, 6 to 9 months, it's not going to make the headlines. It's not going to raise suspicions. That's a lot of people to disappear. They're going to be able to create what is called plausible deniability. You may suspect that your uncle is gone or your sister disappeared, but she just called you yesterday and you talked to her and it sounded just like her. Now what? Is she really gone? Or is her explanation legitimate? Oh, hey, I took a trip. Oh, hey, I'm sick. Don't come over. oh, hey, I'll talk to you soon, but I just can't make it. I've got a lot of work right now. The AI algorithm is very advanced. It runs these scripts that have already been tested as to what is going to work on you. They're going to run a script depending on their analysis of your personality. They have a database of 360, 70 million Americans in their computers. They know everything about you. They know your habits. They know your beliefs. They know your positive qualities, your negative qualities. They're going to incorporate that in the algorithm so that when your sister calls you, your AI-generated sister calls you. She's already gone. She's in the underground base, the real one. When the AI-generated sister calls you, they're going to know what she needs to say to make you believe that she's still alive. Did that make sense or not? Sometimes I wonder that some of the people listening, if you're smart enough to understand what you're being told by right now, because some of those comments are so dumb. So dumb. But the good news is we're winning because there's way more positive comments, way more likes than dislikes on those videos. The smart people outnumber the dummies by a wide margin, thank God. Just in terms of the comments and the interaction, I see positive. The smart ones are winning. But boy, there's some dumb ones too. So, does that make sense? The AI, they're so advanced, they're so smart. They know what you're going to do before you do it. So when they disappear, 12 to 15 million American patriots, all their friends, all their family members are going to get totally bamboozled by this AI automated thing that they got set up, ready to go. And it's going to create plausible deniability. You're not going to be able to prove that your dad is gone. It's going to look suspicious. You might know he's really gone, but then your friend doesn't know it, and your local police department doesn't believe it. Months and months and months go by, and guess what? The collapse happens. And now it's just an afterthought. And now people are worried about eating. They haven't heard from their dad in months. They keep getting phone messages from him. He says this, he says that. They don't know if he's alive or dead. At that point, they can't investigate it. Local police won't look into it. They don't know what to do. And now there's an economic collapse. And now they're lining up to get food at the military garrisons. And now they got to take a microchip. And they're going to take that microchip so they can eat. Am I painting a picture for you for what's going to happen? Is it starting to click? 12 to 15 million American patriots are going to be gone. They're going to kill a lot of them, too. Don't get me wrong. They're going to kill a lot of them. They're taking millions down underground. They have a data profile of every single American. They know what you believe. And if you're Christian, you better believe they're going to target you, and they're going to make sure that you survive and that you're taken underground. The people they're going to kill will have good reason to believe it's a lot of these people who've gone after Israel. A lot of these people that really called out Israel, they're really going to make sure that you suffer, and then they're going to kill you. That's my understanding. I mean, I don't know for sure. Based on documents, some of the things my military source told me, my conversation with David, kind of direction they're going to go. But they want the Christians alive. Not that they're real specific about that. And if you got any doubt about who I'm referring to, it's Israel. Now, I'm not going to use the other terms, the J term or the Z term. I'm not going to get into that because I want the video to stay up. But you know what I'm talking about. Who do you think controls the media? That's who I'm talking about. They hate you. They believe that you are no better than cattle. And they hate that you can think for yourself and then you're starting to resist. So they've got this plan in place to make sure that there is no resistance, and there isn't. Your guns aren't going to be able to stop this. So we got out. I took the advice of my military source, who's been telling me a long time you need to get out. And David pushed me to do it too, and David helped me to do it. David helped me. And we got out. Now, that is going to conclude my section here on the collapse. I tried to paint a picture for you for what's going to happen. There is going to be a reset. It's going to be bad for a few years. It's not going to be Mad Max. People still have food as long as they take the microchip. The news will be more controlled. Trump presidency is going to fade, and I'll talk a little bit about that. It's not going to be quite what you're seeing now. And that collapse is going to dominate American life for about 2 to 3 years. But then there's going to be a renewal. And that renewal is going to create a new America. Not going to have free speech anymore. But you're going to wake up every day and you're going to be told that things are better now. And all the people that took that chip, they're not very awake. They're not very aware. There's a reason they're not in the underground bases, in other words. They're going to wake up every day. They're going to believe that this new world, this globalist nightmare, is good. That's a good thing. And they're going to think, they're going to be glad that the Constitution is dead and gone, and that republicanism has been stamped out, and conservatism and conspiracy theorists are gone. That's the new world they're going to create. And these idiots that are going to be above ground, that are going to take the chip, they're going to cheer it on. They're really going to believe that it's better. And they're going to institute Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, all of their transhumanist, insane policies they've been wanting to get through for a long time, but people like us have been in the way. Not anymore. They got rid of us. They're going to start instituting the total control grid, total surveillance grid. They want total control of your life, your thought processes, everything you do, and they're going to take it even to a level beyond that, and that's where the AI comes in later on. So I hope this is all making sense. I hope it crystallized for you what the collapse is, how it's going to kind of transpire. It's not going to be a Mad Max chaos, total meltdown scenario. It will be a controlled collapse, and it's going to be bad. You would not want to leave. It's not going to be fun for Americans. It's going to be rough. But it's going to be a controlled collapse. And they're going to usher all these millions of Americans through the red lines, get the microchip, and there's going to be the renewal that comes later on. New currency, new America, no more Constitution, no more freedom. And conservatives, conspiracy theorists, anybody free-thinking person, well, they're gone. They don't exist anymore. As far as anybody's concerned, they're just gone. A lot of them been killed at that point, and the rest are underground. And there are already people underground. I mean, they've been doing this for years. This is going to be a mass operation to get millions of people down there. They already take people down there and torture them and do all this stuff to them. Thousands. They've already took 100,000. I told you 100,000 went down there. But they take a few thousand every year, people that are just a problem for them, and they do whatever they're going to do to them. They have children that they abduct. You know all this. For some reason, you just can't believe they'd do it on such a large scale, but they will. So that about concludes the class part. We're going to get into the Trump part. This is a lot. It's a lot for me. I get emotionally exhausted doing all this, and we're only on part 2. We got a long way to go. I pray these videos stay up. There's actually a lot of really good positive comments here. A lot of the negative ones got deleted. Thank God. They're toxic and threats and other garbage from a bunch of demonic scum. But the good ones are up, and I'm very pleased to read a lot of this stuff. A lot of you are really awake. A lady named Tracy asked this. She asked, question for Tom. You said that the elites made sure they have safe places to go, which would also be a safe place for others getting out of the U.S., right? Correct. Well, why would the elites need to have a safe place to go if they are the ones behind the diabolical plans? Who do they need to be kept safe from? And why would we want to relocate to the same area that they plan to go? And that's actually a couple of really good questions. First part of that, she said that the elites want to have a safe place to go. That is correct. The part of the reason for that, Tracy, is that the Northern Hemisphere in particular is going to experience a severe collapse that I just talked about. It's a controlled collapse, but the debt bubble is finally going to pop. There's about $250 trillion in debt in the banking system, basically just funding money that they've been printing up for decades out of thin air. And they know it's going to come down at some point, so they decided, let's try to make it a controlled collapse so we can benefit from it. So there'll be a reset, and then they'll start over with the new currency. When that happens, it's going to cause serious problems in a lot of countries. It's not going to be a fun time. And I previously just said that you're going to see people that lived in mansions with millions of dollars in the bread lines with everybody else in the United States of America. Even very rich people will be impacted by the stock market collapse and just total wipeout in the U.S. and in Europe, China. It's going to affect a lot of countries. Because of that, Tracy, the elites want to have some safe zones and some countries that are going to be okay. They really don't want to be there during that time. If they are, they want to have a second or a third home in a clean, safe country that does not experience this kind of disaster and mess. So I'll move on to the other part of your question. Why would the elites need to have a safe space or safe place if they're the ones behind these plans? Well, they do need that, and they do want that. There's certain parts of this planet that they really like, and that's the Southern Hemisphere. It's less polluted. It's less populated, and they've made it their own little backyard where they can do all their Agenda 21 and Agenda 30 over in New Zealand and Australia, where they've been experimenting on that for years. And they can keep it preserved and clean, and they keep the chemtrails pretty much situated in the Northern Hemisphere. That's their backyard. Tracy asked, who do they need to be kept safe from? They don't want to be trapped in the chaos of the economic collapse. They want their own place to go. And she said, why would we want to relocate to the same area they plan on going to? Makes no sense. No, you do want to be there, Tracy. It's a far better alternative. I explained it in the other video. They don't have underground bases in these countries and these places. They don't have a surveillance grid in place. Somewhat in parts of Australia and New Zealand, but not even close to what they've got in the Northern Hemisphere and in America. The surveillance grid down in the Southern Hemisphere isn't even like what they got up north. They haven't invested that kind of time down there because they really don't want it there and they don't need it. They're not going to have 5G in a lot of these countries. So you want to go there. They're not. Their focus is on the Northern Hemisphere. All their energy's going into it, all their time. If you manage to get down there and you can maintain a low profile, you're going to be okay. And I also mentioned in my last video, again, I hope people listen all the way through because I addressed all these things. They're taking kind of a hands-off approach to the Southern Hemisphere. It has to do with some of their spiritual and religious beliefs. These people are they're evil. They're totally evil, but they do have a code that they follow. They like to tell you what they're going to do before they do it. They like to get your permission to do evil. And they also like to give certain people a pass. Basically, let them through. We're not going to worry about them. And my understanding is there's kind of a hands-off attitude to the Americans that manage to get down there. They're not going to bother them. Now, if it was millions of Americans who went down to South America, that would be a different story. But if you've got dozens of them moving down there, people like me, they're not going to waste time with it. And they seem to have this attitude or approach that says, they made it out, we're going to leave them alone. For whatever reason, in their own twisted ideology and ethics, they seem to be, it's kind of hands off. That's what I've heard. I don't know for sure. I do feel safe right now that I'm here with my family. But I have been given some information that says, you'll be all right. I mean, I could be wrong. But at this point, what alternative do we have, Tracy? We stay in the U.S. That is not an option. You got to go somewhere else. Where else are you going to go? The Northern Hemisphere is in big trouble. The Northern Hemisphere is going to experience a collapse, and it's already under total surveillance grid, and they got underground bases everywhere, not just the United States. That's not an option. So where do we go? Well, we've got to go to the Southern Hemisphere. We go to the countries that are safe, that they've been protecting. That's the only other those are our options, Tracy. We don't have anywhere else to go. We can't go off the planet. I'm just trying to give people guidance and tell them what I did, and I believe it's the right decision and it's the right thing to do, and that is to get out. You got a hell of a lot better chance of avoiding this nightmare scenario if you're out. I don't have much time. We got a little over a year, but that's enough time to start making the decisions, start making the plans. Now, if I were you, I'd go to Chile, I'd go to Argentina, Ecuador. New Zealand would not be my first stop, although my understanding is it is safe. And there's parts of Australia that are safe. There's Pacific Islands that are safe. So that's the direction, Tracy, and I feel it's the right one. I hope that answers your question. I'm going to move on here. Patrick asked, how do you stop the drone from getting into your home while you're awake or asleep? Good question, actually. How do you stop it? Very hard to stop the drone. These drones are very advanced. They have lasers that can just cut right through glass in about 3 seconds. You could live in a home that has no windows and no glass and just solid concrete with a door. But you're going to be marked, and they're going to know what you did, and they're going to have other alternatives. How many people can go be in a home that has no windows? Not a lot, and if they do it, they're going to be targeted and marked for that, and they'll have other alternatives of getting you. And if that involves them busting your door down and getting you out, they'll do it. They have other means of disabling you. They have electronic weapons. They have sound weapons that can disable you to where you can't get your gun. Not just the drones, not just the scopolamine. They have other means. They will get you. And if they see that you're taking steps to avoid this, you're going to go up higher on the list, on the priority list. So there's really no way out. If you can manage to go live in a cave 1,000 feet underground somewhere with no electronics whatsoever and survive, you might make it. You might get off the radar. Because the little nano device they got in you that tracks you, they can't track you that far underground. So pretty much the only safe place you can go is a cave or really far underground. At least 100 feet is what I've been told. Very, very difficult for anybody to really pull that off, and I don't know how you're going to survive, and eventually you're going to have to come to the surface. And that little nano thing in your body, it does send out a signal, and the satellites can pick it up. Not great, but they can pick it up. Now, if you want to live in a lead-lined suit, now they can't get you. But now you're walking around in a lead-lined suit. Not very safe, not practical. So I hope that's painting a picture of how difficult this is going to be for people. They've thought of everything. They're evil, they're smart, they're diabolical. Not in a million years are they going to let you, at your bug out property with some guns, stop them. They just want you to believe that that was going to work. All right. Let me move down the list. Somebody suggested that I'm scaring people or somebody's going to commit suicide. That's just ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to do something, no, don't you dare even think of committing suicide. If you commit suicide, you're risking your entry into heaven. You're not getting into heaven. That's purgatory. That's another thing. I don't want to get in a religious discussion about it, but committing suicide is not an option. This individual, Anthony, said, I'm a targeted individual. This makes sense as to how gang stalking is perpetrated, the TTID program. I've spoken out against the Zionist movement, and that could potentially be a reason why. That is correct, Anthony. Off-grid desert farming with Paul and Adrian, he said this. He said, so the New World Order is going to devote that many resources, money, manpower to cut people's limbs off, torture them, feed them, keep them alive. Do you know how many staff that is going to take care of 10 to 15 million people, let alone to feed the staff? Doesn't make sense. No, what you just said doesn't make sense, Paul and Adrian. With all due respect, what you said just doesn't make sense. Of course they have the staff to do it. They have robots. They have machines to do it. They're going to have a staff of about 20,000 people that manage the whole operation of these underground bases. But the vast majority of what goes on is done by robots and machines. I mean, they've got technology 100 years of what you even know about. You think they've got a bunch of housekeepers walking around and porters moving around and taking care of all those people in cages? Of course not. The whole operation is almost virtually automated. So no, you're not thinking clear. You're making excuses in your mind about that this can't be possible. Of course, very, very possible. It's very, very, very realistic and possible. And as I said, they've got technology so far ahead of what you can imagine. It makes it even more possible because of that. Even with today's technology that you're aware of, it could still be done. Just because, he said this, just because you flee to another country does not mean you will be safe, because the Antichrist system is worldwide and you'll be faced being chipped in the country you flee to. How are you going to escape? That's actually a good point. It probably will be worldwide. I've been told they're not going to implement it down in some of these other countries for a very long time. Again, the apparatus isn't in place. They don't have the underground bases. They don't have the surveillance control grid down in some of these countries. They don't have it in Africa either, by the way. I haven't mentioned Africa because it's not safe really to go there, but there are large parts of Africa that will also be safe. So it will probably be implemented in time, but it's going to be a long ways off. Their main focus is the United States, Western Europe, China, some of the Middle Eastern countries, but Canada. That is their main focus. So you're right to a point, but at this point, what other options do we have? I don't want to accept a chip, so I'm leaving and I'm getting the heck out. That was my attitude, and that's what I did. Linda Hurley said, I've often wondered about our food. It's terrible. You're absolutely right, Linda. If you're down in another country like where I'm at, you're going to taste food that's delicious because it's grown in the ground. In America, far, far less is actually grown the way you think it's grown. Farrah said, Tom is blunt and straightforward, but does not entertain bullcrap. Thank you. We need stand-up discussions. I appreciate his audio and the discussion of questions asked from his last video. Thank you. Social Observer said, if human consciousness can elevate the right frequency, we can defeat the AI reptilian technology. I wish that was true. I don't know if it is. Maybe we can. This person also said, stay calm, Patriots, but Tom does have correct information. Thank you. And this guy said, I don't think anyone with an NDA would care more about his family than humanity. Well, I do care about humanity. Why do you think I'm doing this? I've given people the pathway. I have helped some people so far. But some people just can't follow instructions. I'm just not going to waste time with it anymore. I'm done. I still want to know the truth and the path to get out. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to move on to the section about Trump. I know I just talked for a long time there. I just rattled and rattled. I've already gone an hour now. You know, I asked them to put in these timestamps so that you can at least jump around and get to the parts you want to listen to, because I know it's a lot. My recommendation, you listen to all of it. I think you should listen to all of it. If you really want to be informed and know what's up, you should listen to all of it, but I get it. You might get tired of listening to certain things, so you can skip around, and now you jump to the Trump section here. And this is just a huge topic. It really should be its own video, and I might export another video and talk more about it in a different video. But the Trump presidency is, it's a big deal. They've not talked about it a lot. We had a lot of discussions about it. And ultimately, after all those discussions we had, we came to the conclusion that Trump, there's too much crap surrounding him. Dav1d, his love of Israel, how he has done everything for Israel, how he allowed his daughter to convert to Dav1d. How he has signed this, he just signed an executive order that he's pushing to outlaw anti-Semitic speech. David talked about that too. So there's real problems, and he has connections to Epstein, although there isn't really any evidence that he ever went on his plane. You know, guilt by association is a slippery slope. Just because he was in Epstein's black book doesn't necessarily mean he was involved in what Epstein was involved in. His daughter was in Epstein's book. So it's hard to reach conclusions on that. But he did appoint Alex Acosta as the labor secretary. And Alex Acosta is the idiot prosecutor in Florida who helped Epstein get off. So why would Trump appoint him to a position of power? Acosta eventually had to resign. So there's some suspicious stuff with Trump that doesn't look good. You know, and it's possible it's just total cognitive dissonance, that Trump really believes what he's doing. He really believes it's all about America first, but he's got this cognitive dissonance. He's got this blind spot where he puts Israel first. It's a problem. The problem is when they control both candidates, it doesn't matter who wins. Hillary Clinton received more money and more funding from Jewish organizations than any human being in history. And then you got Trump, who got millions and millions and millions from a bunch of Jewish billionaires. So how could they lose? So I can't totally explain it. Part of the thing that's confusing is Trump does do some good stuff. He seems sincere. He seems to believe the stuff that he says. But you've got to remember, he's a little bit of a fraudster too. And somebody like that's a chameleon. He's able to shift and change to suit a certain crowd, constituency, and he's done a hell of a job of it. If you look back at his positions, if you go way back, this is the guy that said Hillary would be great as president, way back. He said Oprah would be a great president. Trump said all kinds of dumb, contradictory things over the years. He donated Democrats and Republicans. But it's hard to draw conclusions from that. It's hard to say, well, is Trump a bad guy or did he just play the system? And when it comes to the Israel question, he's either one of them or he is being duped. He's got a blind spot. Or best case scenario, he's trolling them and he's playing them. He's keeping his enemies close. He's saving them for last kind of thing. And I think Q said something like that. I could be wrong. I haven't kept up on all that. So David was more in the feeling that Trump was just a total traitor and in bed with Israel and could not be trusted. I was more of the feeling that I kind of support Trump and I don't want to totally throw him under the bus. Let's give him a chance. So we had a lot of arguments about that. But at the end of the day, Trump is pushing 5G. Trump has suggested that 5G is like the race to the moon back in the 60s. So Trump could be saying all these good things, but then he's doing all these evil things. Remember, he's talking one good thing, talking a good game, but the actions tell you a different story. He hires all these swamp creatures. Nobody gets arrested. The agenda hadn't shifted that much. And if Hillary got in power or another Democrat got in power, they can reverse whatever the heck Trump has done. Now, everybody says he's appointing judges. Well, how do you know those judges aren't a bunch of Freemasons? Just because they're conservative doesn't mean anything. I really question the judge's part because he talks that up a lot. Wow, look at these conservative judges I appointed. No. They're all swamp creatures and part of the agenda. So there's something going on, but I don't believe Trump is the guy to clean the swamp. He's more about himself. He's very upset about the impeachment. He's very upset about how he was spied on. But what is he doing to really move the ball to change the real agenda? And when you put Israel first the way he does over and over and over again, you can't ignore that. That's a problem. Now, you could say he's keeping his enemies close, but what's really changing right now? Right now, he supported Israel on everything. He supported Saudi Arabia on everything. They got him by the balls. It's pathetic. He hasn't given us any 9/11 truth. He hasn't arrested anybody. He hasn't indicted anybody. What's changed? Other than Q telling you that there's all these indictments and all these people in Gitmo with no evidence at all. What has changed? Not much. You just have to be objective about it because he talks a good game and the people that love Trump, they love him. And he's right about the fake news. But what's changing? Everything he's done can be reversed pretty quick. If there's a collapse, if there's a Democrat in power, if Pence got in power, it all gets reversed. Whatever the heck he's done, which isn't a whole hell of a lot, they can reverse it. The problem with Trump is he's a paper tiger. He talks big, talks good game. But he hadn't moved on a lot of things he needed to move on. So it's a tough one. Is his heart in the right place? Or is he compromised? Or does he have blind spots? These things David and I talked about a lot. At the end of the day, what I've learned from my military source is Trump's compromised. That's the problem. He does talk a good game, but there's something really wrong when it comes to some of the decision-making that's gone on. He hadn't been tough enough. He hadn't followed through on a lot of things. He talks and talks and talks, and he cries on Twitter a lot, but he could do a lot more than he's done. He's just not tough enough. He's not taking the steps he needs to take. So he's a Pied Piper. You get a guy like that in there that makes you feel like he's going to save the country, but he really doesn't do it, doesn't get the job done. That's almost worse than having somebody like Hillary in there, who at least you know she's the enemy. So my personal view is I think Trump has some sense of what's right and thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's so dumb and ignorant on certain things, and he's so compromised. He'll walk the country off a cliff if it means helping Israel. He seems to have gotten out of the Iran thing. That's something David talked about a lot. They're going to send us to war with Iran. Well, clearly they were planning to do that. You have to be blind not to see that. So David talked about that a lot. He was right about everything. But the public response to Iran was extremely negative. And it looked like they had to change course, and David talked about that. He said, well, having to change course because the public response is extremely negative. They had no appetite for the war. So the little false flags they did weren't enough. They weren't enough. So we don't really know what Trump was doing. Were they telling Trump, hey, we're going to have to back off. You need to pretend like you are trying to get out of the war, and we'll save it for your second term? Will they have a big false flag and there's no way out of it? Wow, Iran fired a nuke at Israel. Okay, we got to go get Iran. Something like that. Iran attacks a U.S. aircraft carrier. Real obvious, no doubt they did it. Okay, now we got to go get Iran. The Gulf of Tonkin kind of thing, or a 9/11 kind of thing, where they're going to get you into the war. My feeling is, and David seemed to kind of indicate this in some of his videos, is they poll tested it. Do Americans have an appetite for Iran right now? And clearly they didn't. This was back in May. They were gearing up for war. What happened? A couple little false flags were conducted. Nobody bought it. Trump started to look like the hero, like he was pushing back against Bolton, and all the Trump people got on board with that, like, wow, Trump's fighting back against Bolton and all this crap. So that gave Trump a little street cred. Does that make sense? So now when the big false flag happens, people are going to trust Trump because they feel like he's got their side. He's not pro-war. He's the anti-war president. They've given him that street cred. Does this make sense right now? These are smart people. They realize the whole Bush crap isn't going to work anymore. Bush was all about jingoism. Rah, 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 America's a policeman of the world. We're going to go get them and get the bad guys in the Middle East. That worked, but it doesn't work anymore because people have wised up and they're tired of the crap and the false flags and the wars. So if they got Trump in there and he's got a little street cred and he's a little bit anti-war, and he rebuffed Bolton on the war with Iran, now it looks like, maybe Trump's the guy we can trust on this. And then he kicked Bolton out. So we don't really know for sure. My hope is Trump has a plan, a trick up his sleeve, and he's playing these idiots over in Israel like a fiddle. It's hard to tell. Because he came out yesterday and said, well, Jews need to love Israel even more than they do. He said he was the king of Israel back over the summer. I mean, he's done all kinds of weird stuff that make you think he loves Israel. Or is he just trolling them? Is he trolling the mofos? Is he buttering them up? Does he know they're full of crap, but he knows he's got to play the game Otherwise, they'd crucify him as an anti-Semite. So he knows he's got to play the game. But when push comes to shove, he won't go to war with Iran. He won't do it. He does the symbolic things. He moves the embassy to Jerusalem, for example. He lets Israel have the Golan Heights, even though they already have the Golan Heights. I mean, there's no stopping that. They've settled the whole thing. I mean, they're not going anywhere. There's 500,000 of them in the Golan Heights. They're not going anywhere. So Trump throws them a bone on that. So he's throwing Israel these bones. But when push comes to shove, he sort of got us out of Syria, and he avoided the Iran war, and he fired Bolton. So it looks like he could be playing them. He could be gaming them. And then he butters them up with these ridiculous statements about, well, Jews don't love Israel enough. And then he signs these executive orders that are really bad, punishing the BDS movement. I mean, this stuff's really bad. So if you take it at face value, Trump looks like a total Shabbos Goy butt sponge at face value. But if you read into some of the things he's saying, you could argue he's trolling them. He's playing them. He knows he can't come out against them. So he's got to be subtle about it. That's the best case scenario. But why would you let your daughter marry this guy? Kushner, why would you let that happen? And why would you put Kushner in charge of the wall and in charge of Middle East peace? I mean, he's giving Kushner so much power. That's why David said, hey, he wants Kushner to be vice president. We don't know for sure. I talked to David about this a lot. Do we know what Trump's doing? There's one way you can look at it where it's really, really bad, where he's a traitor. He needs to be tried for treason, for giving so much to Israel, cooperating with Israel, putting Israel first. That's treason. And doing nothing to put America first other than a bunch of symbolic crap about the wall or this or that, things he could really do to stop, but he hadn't done it. Letting some of his bullcrap filter through the courts and get knocked down to where nothing really changes at the border and the immigration system. So it's all symbolic. It's not actually doing anything. So if you look at it that way, Trump is just a paper tiger. He's up there to mislead and distract. He's a Pied Piper. And they'll get rid of him at some point, and they'll usher in the New World Order and globalism. And they'll look back at Trump, and they will characterize him as a Hitler in the history books. And they'll say that was the last vestige of conservatism and republicanism in America, and now it's dead. We killed it. Impeachment isn't going to do it, but something's going to do it at some point. Then you got another way of looking at it. Trump's just playing these people, and at some point he'll drop the hammer on Israel. That's the best case scenario. I don't see it happening. Nothing he's doing is doing that. They know the Israel thing isn't popular, the Iran war is not popular, so they put it off till the second term. And they're going to have a big old false flag, get everybody behind it. Something that is so, there's no way you could deny it. A 9/11 type false flag that puts the target on the back of Israel, or on the back of Iran. That's what I think they're plotting. Trump says he wants to make a deal with him, and he exchanged the prisoners recently. What's true? Maybe 5D chess is in play, but if Trump doesn't know about Project Zypher, and he doesn't know about Project Pogo, and he doesn't know about TTID, and he's totally wrong about 5G, and he's just spending all his time talking on Twitter, and he isn't indicting anybody, he didn't put these people in prison, he didn't drain in the swamp. He may be playing some chess, but he's not doing enough. It's not going to matter at the end of the day. Because on some level, maybe Trump realizes Israel is full of crap, and he knows the game, and he thinks he can play the game, but he doesn't fully understand how deadly that game is. And if you aren't tough, and you don't take action, and you don't declare martial law, and you don't arrest these people, and you don't really, really, really get tough, Not going to matter. They're going to get rid of you. So if Trump doesn't do the Iran war, and if Trump doesn't do more for Israel, or if Trump really tries to play both sides, they'll get rid of him. My concern is this: at face value, he's a Shabbos goy, straight up. He grovels for Israel. He crawls across hot coals for Israel. His entire cabinet's full of a bunch of Israel firsters. I mean, what are we supposed to conclude? We're trying to read between the lines and find a silver lining with Trump and trying to say, okay, maybe he's trolling Israel. Maybe he's playing both sides. Maybe he knows what the game is. Maybe he knows he's got to play the game. So he throws the symbolic crap like moving the thing to Jerusalem, the embassy to Jerusalem. Maybe he does these things because he's got some plan for the future but I don't see it happening. Like, where is it happening? Explain to me what he's doing to change anything. It's just tweeting and tweeting and tweeting. There's no real solid change. And we talk about judges, they're all Freemasons. Who cares? Based on what my military sources told me, he said this. He said, Tom, nothing is really going to change. You're going to see all this talk. You're going to see the patriots riled up and feeling confident, but it's not going to change. Project Cypher collapse is coming. Trump will, whether he's there or not, it doesn't matter. No fundamental changes were really made to prevent what's coming in terms of what the Trump administration's been doing. That's what he told me. It's going to feel good. It's going to look good. And you're going to feel rah, 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 go Trump. But the fundamental things that had to be done to save the country did not and will not happen. Trump needed to declare martial law pretty quick, arrest a lot of people, get the Marines, get the military in Washington, D.C., shut down a lot of these departments, FBI, CIA. They needed to be shut down, everybody arrested, and the buildings demolished. IRS, demolish them. Literally demolish them. Line them up with explosives and blow them up. After you've removed everybody, taken them to Gitmo, blow these buildings up. Arrest Congress, get them to Gitmo. This is what you had to do to save the country, and my military source said he didn't do it. It's just been talk, and it's been good talk. So it's been some good talk. It's really got everybody riled up and feeling like, well, there's hope. We got Trump in there. He said don't buy into it because the fundamental things that need to happen did not happen. And Trump's moving the ball forward for Israel, and he's moving the ball forward on 5G. 5G alone ought to be enough to tell you things are not what they seem. So that's my assessment. Whatever Trump's doing, he appears to be embattled with the Democrats. There seems to be a power struggle. I mean, that could be real. Is it theater? Is it real? Are Trump and Hillary friends? Are they not friends? We don't know for sure. We know Trump was connected to Epstein, but there's no evidence he went on the plane. Guilt by association is not enough. What's real? We know there's video of Epstein and Trump 20 years, 25, 30 years ago checking women out. And a bunch of models were hanging out and they were checking them out. Okay, I mean, that's not criminal. It looks bad, but it's not a crime. So we don't know the extent of all that. We know that Epstein was deep in a lot of crap, and Bill Clinton was deep in with him. Trump's association is not quite as close. Whatever the case, it doesn't matter. Trump's president. He hadn't done what's necessary to save the country. It's been too much talk, too much pro-Israel, too much window dressing. Too much window dressing, and it won't matter in the end. He didn't make enough fundamental changes to turn the country around. It's over. Too much talk. Too many Israel firsters. Too many tweets that were written by Stephen Miller. the Zionist spokesperson that seems to write half his speeches. It's all pro-America, but the actions, the fundamental actions, are pro-Israel. It's one thing to talk, it's another thing. You always have to look at people's actions. You got to look at their actions. What do they do versus what they say? Trump's words and his actions just don't line up the way they need to. I would advise great caution when it comes to Trump and jumping on the Trump train and getting all rah, rah, rah. You really got to check yourself on that. It ain't what it seems. And David knew that. David talked about it extensively. There's too many disturbing things that we know in terms of his connections with Israel, Abad Lubavitch, Jared Kushner, the rabbis, the funding of his campaign, the moneyed interests that want him in there. They're Zionists. The only little tiny sliver of hope, little silver lining we got is maybe Trump's playing them, maybe he's operating 5D chess way beyond what they see or what we see. I don't believe so, because the fundamental things that need to happen didn't happen, haven't happened. And what I mean by that is arrests. So you got to ask yourself, why is QAnon saying all this stuff and we know it's not happening? QAnon probably has access to information. It's more than just what they call a LARP. There's something to it, but it's just talk. Nothing's happening. They just want you to believe that something's happening. They want you to believe the indictments are coming. They want you to believe it's just right around the corner, tick-tock, tick-tock, but nothing is fundamentally changing. Just kicking that can down the road a little bit longer before the collapse. So the Project Zypher, Project Pogo, TTID gets completed and gets done, and then the collapse happens. Now, they may pin that collapse on Trump. He may be the fall guy. They may use him as a symbol, say, wow, we allowed Trump to get in power, and then the whole thing fell apart. He was a modern-day Hitler. I mean, that's what the history books may write. That may be the agenda that they want to play out. He may be a willing participant in it. He may not be. But the end game hasn't changed. The end game hadn't changed. No matter how many tweets that guy sends, no matter how many great things he says that America-loving patriots eat up and gobble up and love, the fundamental things that need to happen haven't happened, and a lot of really bad things have happened. Particularly some of this stuff he's signing with respect to the Noahide laws and the anti-Semitism stuff. That's really bad. I don't see any resistance from Trump on that. He's either a complete moron or he's got some game plan to play him. I don't see it happen. I don't see it. What's he doing to stop any of this? Nothing. Whether he's conscious with all this or he is just being played himself. Maybe he's a puppet, maybe he's compromised, maybe they give him a script and say, well, go out and talk about that and talk about this and do that. We don't really know. You got to search your gut and the Holy Spirit on that one. But you need to open your eyes and you look around and you say, wait a minute, things aren't fundamentally changing in a way that needs to happen to save the country. And I just told you what it was, martial law. Shut down the agencies, arrest all of them, get them in Gitmo, get them in military bases, try them for treason. You have to declare martial law. You've got to get troops on the streets in Washington, D.C. to clean out the swamp. Get the Constitution back in play. You've got to undo all the legislation from Congress and Obama and Bush. You've got to completely undo it. Patriot Act, all of it. Trump hadn't done any of that. You've got to totally cut ties with Israel, send all the dual citizens back to Israel, cut all the funding, and you got to open the 9/11 investigation. You got to ban 5G. I mean, these are all the things that need to happen, and they haven't happened. And you got to get the Clintons indicted and arrested. None of it's happened. It's just been talk on Twitter. Good talk, but just talk. You're being played. You're being played for fools. That's why I said you can't save America. That's the things that need to happen to save America haven't happened. It's over. Trump, he's Pied Piper. A psyop to lead the Patriots, give them a false sense of security, and lull them to sleep. And boy, they've done a hell of a job with it, with the QAnon thing. There's a lot of things that Trump says, written by Stephen Miller, an avowed Zionist. All these sons of bitches are crafty, aren't they? So that's my take on Trump. I'm going to end this, and this is part 2. I recommend listening to these over and over again just so it all sinks in. You get the information and you spread it. I hope you can spread it and post it and get it out there. And I'll get I'll get part 3 up soon. I'll get the audio to them and we can get that up too. That's it.